In a world where death is the hunter, there are no small or big decisions. There are only decisions we make in the face of our inevitable death. In the 21st century, we are drowning in a sea of digital distractions, unprecedented challenges, and deep-seated existential questions. Our days often pass in a blur, dictated by habitual routines and familiar patterns. This crafts the reality that, while constricting and predefined, we've come to accept as our own. While these actions offer a semblance of comfort, they ultimately narrow our lens, preventing us from grasping the true vastness of reality. But what if there's a different way? What if, by stopping the world through the secret teachings of the Yaqui Shamans, we could see beyond our daily routines, and by embracing the ancient practice of not doing, challenge our everyday actions, pushing the boundaries of our ingrained behaviors? This isn't merely a philosophy, it's a transformative path, freeing us from societal constraints and ushering us into a realm of authentic perception and profound insight. By the end of this video, you will understand how to walk the warrior's path, embodying unwavering intent and determination. In this realm, we can tap into heightened states of consciousness, delve deeper into self-awareness, and engage with the world in its purest form. Indeed, the antidotes to our present-day quandaries might just be found in the wisdom of the ancients. You see, in the midst of the 20th century, a time marked by cultural upheavals and the search for deeper meaning, a figure named Carlos Casteneda emerged onto the literary scene. The 1960s, a time of revolution and rebirth, Western society was grappling with its very identity, and in this cauldron of change, Casteneda's writings were, let's say, a sort of antidote to the superficiality of the age. Carlos Casteneda, trained as an anthropologist, wrote a series of books detailing his apprenticeship with a Yaqui shaman named Don Juan Matus. However, these weren't mere ethnographic notes. Far from it. They delved deep into the psyche, exploring realms of archetypes and mythological truths. Little did Carlos realize he was being trained in the mystical art of sorcery. Enter Don Juan Matus, a figure shrouded in mystery and lore. The Yaqui people, indigenous to Mexico, have a rich history of cultural and spiritual traditions, and Don Juan, he was a bridge, a conduit if you will, between the ancient wisdom of the Yaquis and the modern soul searching for meaning. Don Juan introduced Casteneda, and through him the world to concepts that challenge our very understanding of reality, perception, dreaming, the nature of existence. These weren't just abstract philosophical notions, but living, breathing practices that could transform one's life. In the world's vast dance, all that you perceive is but a mirror to the soul's depths. When storms of confusion rage, remember the key to serenity lies within, not without. This book is about waking up from the dreamlike state of being consumed by thinking and realizing the truth of reality as it is in the present moment. Psychological forms of suffering such as anxiety, stress, anger, unease, etc. are largely the result of our way of thinking and the result of identifying ourselves with our thoughts and consequently being unaware of who we actually are, or of what is actually true about life beyond our conceptions of it. It is our perception of ourselves and of reality that determines our experience. Ultimately, it is not the circumstances in life that affects us, but how we choose to perceive those circumstances. But how does one shift their perception? Reality, Don Juan would say, is merely a reflection of our inner landscape. To change the world outside, one must venture within. This is where we touch upon not doing. The concept of not doing in Carlos Castaneda's works, as taught by Don Juan Matus, is both intricate and profound. It's one of the fundamental practices introduced in the series and plays a pivotal role in the apprenticeship of Casteneda. At its core, not doing doesn't mean inactivity. Instead, it refers to actions that are not dictated by habit, societal norms, or routine behaviors. It's about breaking free from the ordinary way of perceiving and interacting with the world. Don Juan posits that there are two sides to reality: the tonal, the known, and the nagual, the unknown. Not doing is a pathway to access the nagual, the vast, uncharted realm of potentiality that exists beyond our habitual perceptions. You see, we only have two alternatives. We either take everything for sure and real, or we don't. If we follow the first, we end up bored to death with ourselves and with the world. If we follow the second and erase personal history, we create a fog around us, a very exciting and mysterious state in which nobody knows where the rabbit will pop out, not even ourselves. Perception is the lens through which we experience reality, yet reality itself is multi-layered, vast, and often elusive. By unnecessarily seeking to rationalize, categorize, and understand the world, we are anchoring ourselves to our personal histories. We inadvertently obscure the profound wonders that lie just beyond our grasp. To truly see, one must endeavor to erase personal history. A challenge indeed, given our deeply ingrained sense of self-importance. Self-importance is our Achilles heel. We become so engrossed in our own narratives, often bolstered by societal accolades like university degrees, that we mistakenly believe we stand apart from and above the world. Such arrogance blinds us, for in truth, most of us remain strangers to our own inner self, let alone the vast mysteries of the universe around us. Don Juan's teachings on not doing represent some of the most challenging and paradoxical elements of Carlos Castaneda's apprenticeship. To better understand this concept, let's delve into a chapter from the book that further illustrates the idea. In the chapter on not doing, Don Juan instructs Carlos to look at a specific point on a rock. At first, Carlos looks directly at it, focusing on that spot in the way most of us would. Don Juan tells him that this is doing the rock. In our day-to-day lives, we do everything. Our perception is based on our accumulated knowledge and established habits. Don Juan then teaches Carlos to see the rock differently by focusing on the peripheries, the spaces around the rock, and everything that is not the specific point. This shift in perception, this new way of looking, is not doing the rock. It's a way of perceiving without relying on our established patterns. You might be wondering how this practice could possibly shift your perception. However, merely by engaging in it, Carlos began to experience serious sensations that he never felt before: heightened awareness, a profound sense of well-being, and a deep immersion in the present moment. As Don Juan states, the body appreciates these things, even if the mind doesn't always understand. The paradox arises when one tries too hard to not do. If you're consciously attempting to not do something, then you're still doing in a sense. The trick is to shift perception without making it a conscious, deliberate task. Here's a better analogy to understand this. Consider listening to a piece of music. When you first hear a song, you might focus on the lyrics, doing the lyrics. If someone then asks you to listen without getting caught up in the words, you might start focusing on the instruments or the rhythm. This could be seen as a form of not doing the lyrics. However, if you strain your ears deliberately trying to ignore the words, you're still doing because your action is reactionary and based on the lyrics. The true not doing in this analogy would be to let go entirely, allowing the music to wash over you without consciously focusing or ignoring any part of it. It's a holistic experience of the music without being bound by any particular element. Don Juan often uses nature as a means to explain these complex concepts. For instance, he might talk about the flight of a bird. Most people see a bird in flight and recognize it, categorize it, and move on, which is doing the bird. Not doing would be to perceive the flight without attaching labels, perhaps noticing the pattern of the flight, the interplay of light on the feathers, or the space around the bird, without actually focusing on the bird itself. In essence, not doing is about freeing perception from the constraints of preconceived notions and societal constructs, allowing one to experience reality in a more direct and unfiltered manner. It's a state of pure perception, unburdened by knowledge or intention. Don Juan teaches Casteneda that to truly seek and understand the world, one must be willing to step out of the comfort of the known and venture into the realm of not doing. As you begin to practice this exercise, you'll quickly realize it's not as straightforward as it might seem. Time and time again, you'll revert to your habitual thinking patterns and customary modes of perception. This state has become so normal for us that we often mistake our habitual sleep for being truly awake. Each time you refocus your awareness on the task, you're genuinely awakening. True knowledge is power, and embracing it requires adopting the mood of a warrior. Consider the warrior, steadfast, deliberate, and ever aware of death's silent pursuit. In this cognizance, every fleeting moment becomes a canvas of infinite choices, every act an art, every decision a dance with destiny. In this passage, Don Juan explains the difference between a warrior and a normal man to Carlos. One needs the mood of a warrior for every single act, he said, otherwise one becomes distorted and ugly. There is no power in a life that lacks this mood. Look at yourself. Everything offends and upsets you. You whine and complain and feel that everyone is making you dance to their tune. You are a leaf at the mercy of the wind. There is no power in your life, but an ugly feeling that must be. A warrior, on the other hand, is a hunter. He calculates everything. That's control. But once his calculations are over, he acts. He lets go. That's abandon. A warrior is not a leaf at the mercy of the wind. No one can push him. No one can make him do things against himself or against his better judgment. A warrior is tuned to survive, and he survives in the best of all possible fashions. Live with death as a companion, whispered the winds of the desert. In its shadow, every moment becomes profound, every choice sacred. In the teachings of Don Juan, the path of a warrior is not necessarily about war or fighting. Instead, it's a metaphorical and spiritual path. It's about adopting a specific way of life and a set of principles that lead to knowledge and freedom. A warrior in this context chooses to treat every situation as if it might be his last battle on earth. giving him thereby complete focus and commitment. This approach to life is not about pessimism or morbidity, but about living fully, responsibly, and with impeccable integrity. Don Juan teaches these concepts to Carlos over time and time in their journey together, often using the challenges and situations Carlos faces as teaching moments. By consistently pointing out Carlos' attachments to fear and assumptions, Don Juan gradually guides him towards understanding and embodying the warrior's path. But in order to walk the warrior's path, one must encompass the mood of a warrior. How one acts while one is in the mood of a warrior. You must have a degree of abandon, and at the same time you must have a degree of control over yourself. The mood of a warrior is a state of mind and being that's characterized by control, discipline, and a kind of silent joy. A warrior understands the challenges ahead and is fully prepared mentally and spiritually to face them. This mood isn't about arrogance or false bravado, it's about genuine confidence, humility, and a deep connection to one's surrounding and circumstances. In the books, there are several instances where Carlos begins to embody the mood of a warrior. One memorable example is when Carlos, after countless failures and frustrations, finally manages to stop the world and see. Instead of succumbing to fear or disbelief, Carlos maintains his composure, observing the world from this new perspective without trying to rationalize or reject the experience. This moment captures the essence of the mood of a warrior, a blend of wonder, respect for the unknown, and the calm assurance of one who's on the right path. This journey from a skeptical, often fearful student to someone who begins to grasp and live by the principle of the warrior's path is central to Carlos Casteneda's narrative in his works with Don Juan. Don Juan and Carlos takes us on a journey through the deserts and savannas. I felt as if I was right there beside them amidst the strange phenomena that was happening. The mood can shift at any time, and you are patiently waiting for the next thing to come out of Don Juan's mouth that will leave you speechless and dumbfounded. Makes you want to leave the boring comfort of Western civilized life that burdens and rots the spirit, for a life in which every act and moment is of the utmost importance and may very well be my last act. My spirit yearns to be a hunter, to walk the path of a warrior, to be in that place of power. I would drop everything to be there. If this indeed is my last act on this mysterious and wonderful world, then I have no time to sit here and think. I whine and complain about the world and my place in it like a brat. I can no longer hide myself of my true nature. I belong out there, in the wilderness, in the wild, in the perils of danger. Everything Carlos encounters is 100% true because I have experienced it. Power, for the first times ever someone put it into word which I had never had the intelligence to articulate. As Don Juan says, it's a feeling. It is a personal and it is unfathomable. It commands you and yet it obeys you.